There are many things that I dream of and pray for Christ's church in this day and age, in this culture, this country, where we are and who we are. I dream of the day when our faith makes people uncomfortable because our faith is seen as threatening the comfortable status quo. Can you imagine that? I dream of the day when politicians on Monday morning worry about what pastors preached on Sunday. Can you imagine that? And I dream of the day when the advertisers on Madison Avenue and all of the CEOs of Walmart and Amazon and all those other companies are scared to death at what we are doing here tonight. Can you imagine that? Because we're here for dangerous work. At least it's dangerous for those people whose so-called success depends on getting us to buy more than we need and whatever that one more thing is that's going to make us complete or whatever that is. What we are doing here tonight is dangerous. It's like stepping too close to that box with the screaming red warning labels, warning, high voltage. What we are here gathered around tonight actually is a threat to the foundations of our economy and our society. And you being here tonight is a declaration of rebellion. That you will not be what they are desperate to make you think that you are. Because tonight we gather around promises fulfilled. God's promises to God's people fulfilled. Listen again to how that reading from Deuteronomy read for us. As you come into the land that you have been promised, promises fulfilled. Come before the Lord and declare, my ancestor was a wandering Aramean, an illegal immigrant, a homeless wanderer, unregistered, unlawful, unwanted, unwelcome. He went down into Egypt, and he lived there as an alien. And there his descendants became slaves, feared and beaten and downtrodden. And the Lord heard our voice and brought us out with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with a terrifying display of power and with signs and wonders. Did you hear those promises fulfilled? This is God stepping into history with power and might. God who hears the cries of those who have no reason to believe that they will ever be heard. God who steps into history to intervene with power and judgment, with a mighty hand pulls a broken people out of slavery, and in 40 short years in the wilderness squeezes that slavery out of them and out of their society. Forming them, taking them, shaping them to be His chosen. Think about that. The promise that God fulfills here in the Exodus is so powerful that it defines a people, their entire identity, forever. Promises fulfilled. Or look again at Jesus. Just before this reading, Jesus sat up on the mountain with 5,000 families gathered around him, and he fed them there in the desert sun up on this mountain with a little boy's lunch. No runs to Costco, no catering, no turducken stuffed with a ham, with a meatball, with a Twinkie, with a gobstopper, or whatever the latest thing is this year. Nothing like that that's possibly going to be enough, but just a simple lunch of a little boy, wrapped in a wrinkled brown paper bag, not enough for a grown man. but here enough to feed 5,000 families. Because when Jesus is around, what is given is enough to fill everyone and leave 12 baskets of leftovers. Promises fulfilled. And so, for a people who perhaps this would have been their only meal of the day, for people who really never got to experience having enough to eat, I heard on the radio that in the country of Malawi right now, in their drought, there are 6 million people who are hungry. And one of the things they've started is at the schools, they've started serving them porridge when they get their first thing. And the comment from the person that works in the country said, we do this because it's probably the only meal they'll get. Those are who is up on the mountain with Jesus. People who never have enough. And here they have 12 baskets left over. So, of course they come to find Jesus. I would too. And Jesus says, look, I know why you're here. You're just missing the rest of the story. You're here because you've ate your fill, but I've got so much more to offer you. So much more beyond you and yours and your needs. I am the dangerous promises of God fulfilled. He says, I am living bread from heaven. And with me, you don't ever have to be hungry again. With me, no one can ever tell you that you're not enough again. No one can ever make you believe you do not matter again. No one can tell you you are missing something, that you are complete, for I am the promises of God fulfilled. Everything you will need for all eternity. The promises of God fulfilled in Jesus. Now think about that. If we are gathered around a Jesus who tells us that we are enough, if we are gathered for these promises of God that say that what He provides is what we need, and if we are gathered around a word and around a promise that says there's nothing we have to add to our lives to matter, don't you think those CEOs of Amazon and Walmart ought to be nervous? Don't you think those advertisers ought to be worried about this? Their livelihoods depend on making us believe we are incomplete, that somehow we're not enough, that somehow there's something missing unless we have that latest shiny trinket. Have you noticed them doing this? And here we gather around a God who says, you are enough. They ought to be scared, don't you think? For this is dangerous stuff tonight. To give thanks to the God who has given us everything, to remember whose we are, and to remember and call upon the promises of God fulfilled for us to gather here tonight to give thanks at the table and in our prayers, for us to remember that we belong to the God of everything who has given us everything. Psalm 149 describes that attitude as a two-edged sword in our hands. Our praises to God, our thankfulness, and returning thanks are a weapon for defense. And they are that strong and dangerous reminder that we are, and what we have, and what we've been given is enough. So they can blather, and they will. Those newspaper flyers can come, and they can try to get us to get up at some scary hour so that we can get some doorbuster deal, and they will. And those things and those scenes on TV that are much more amusing if you turn off the sound, by the way, those advertisements on TV that are hard to tell what they're actually selling, they're still going to natter on. And all of them are going to try to tell us that we're not enough, that there's something missing, that our lives will be complete or better or fulfilled or meaningful or something if we just buy whatever that new trinket is. But we're here. And this is dangerous stuff. So we can say to them, go ahead. Go ahead. We are waiting for a king, not the latest trinket. We are waiting for a ruler, not whatever you are peddling. We are waiting for a kingdom that has come into our midst. Our promises have already been fulfilled, and we are children of the Most High and dangerous God who fulfills his promises. We've already been given forever. We've already had our promises fulfilled. So give him thanks. Sing God's praises. Arm yourselves. Tonight, we do dangerous work.